Hello and welcome back to the Playbase. I am very excited because if you know hockey, or I guess if you know my family, you know we love hockey. I don't know if love is actually the right word. I would say my husband is obsessed and I love hockey.
That's okay.
My son is equally obsessed. And in front of me is one of the most impactful, most meaningful, and most incredible coaches I have yet to see on the ice and off the ice, Nikita. Welcome to the Playbase.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited for this.
I am so excited for this too, because, and I was mentioning this to you before we started, that when I started this podcast, I really thought I was going to have psychologists and behavior analysts and speech and language pathologists and all these people who work specifically with the special needs in the developmental and neurodiverse community, because that's mainly the community that I service. But really, and if you've heard me talk on this podcast, you know, behavior is much more widespread, and the field of applied behavior analysis is so much more widespread than working with that population, because we work with literally everyone.
Right.
And when you really think about it, you think about people who make great impact on people and shape people's behavior and motivate people and bring out the best in people. And when I really thought about who could I bring on who I've seen naturally do that, and at such a young age with such passion and wisdom, you're the first person I thought of. And I'm so happy to have you here, because I think we're all going to learn, but I really think I'm going to learn from you. And that might blow your mind, but I actually feel like you have so much to share.
I appreciate it. I think what you're doing is great. I think it's really important to understand not just kids, but how people work in general. Everyone has their own path. Everyone has their own struggles. And you kind of have to shift gears, whether you're working with, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, or, someone who's just starting out. And I think that goes back to just making connections with people. That's the biggest thing. You want to understand where the perspective of the person that you're working with has come from, whether it's they come from a nice home, whether their childhood was a little bit rough. It's not always easy, and you try to separate that from from my standpoint on the ice compared to what they are off the ice. But I think at the end of the day, you just got to look at everyone as human beings, and you got to show the same love and compassion for no matter what the person has been through. And I think what you're doing right now is a great aspect for it, because it'll help a lot of people understand how not to just connect, but how to really try to help someone. Because I see a lot of people just take instead of give. And I give you a lot of credit for that. I see how loving and caring you are with, your kids, and something I aspire to be one day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I believe, as somebody who has done a lot of inner work and is still, I spent the last 3 days basically crying, figuring out a few of my own next steps and my own personal growth, that people who go into this field of coaching or helping other people have something within them that they are seeking to heal or to share that was shared with them. I always say that I learn so much more from my clients than I'll ever teach them, that I heal parts of myself I didn't even realize needed healing. And this was not a field I chose consciously. It was not like, oh, I want to do this because blah, blah, blah. It was like the path that my soul needed to take.
Yeah.
And I'm a deeply spiritual person. And for me, a big part of my practice in therapy with children led me to see parts of myself and understand parts of myself and really look at myself in a different way, look at the world through different eyes, try different things. And I really feel, and I share this with you as well, we all walk through the path of our life that, I believe our soul chose this life, that we come with a purpose. We come with a mission. I feel it deeply within myself that I have a big mission. And in order to fulfill that mission, I must go through trials and tribulations and highs and lows and peaks and valleys and whatever it is that I needed to walk through in order to get to where I am in this moment. And I will continue to walk through what I need to get to where I'm going to next.
Yeah.
And along the way, we experience our own challenges, our own pain, And I think there's a subconscious choice that we make to either perpetuate and continue this cycle of repeating what was done or what we experienced because it's what we know, right? We understand it. It's like the devil you know versus the one you don't, right? Or the pain you know versus the unknown. Or you can choose a different path, which is to take that which you hold within you, darkness, pain, whatever it might be, and you transmute it into light and you create something beautiful out of it. I think a lot of people who end up working to help other people in some way find a way to take whatever it was or whatever it is that eats at them inside, knowingly or unknowingly, and create something beautiful out of it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think looking at a kid, you see someone so innocent. And the way I look at it is if I'm going to say something to them or if I'm going to try to make them believe something, whether it's a drill, whether it's just something that, I'm kind of giving them advice on, there is no reason why I should be saying something if I don't live the same style. And if I don't do the same thing or if I don't preach the same aspect, I always look at it as you got to work hard. Okay, what does that mean, working hard, right? I can tell one kid to go skate side to side as hard as he can. But if I'm going off the ice and just going through the motions and not trying to make myself better as a human, I have to look at myself in the mirror. And that's the way I kind of looked at it was there should be no reason why I'm teaching or preaching something if I'm not living the life the same way. And I think what you're trying to say is you got to look at yourself in the mirror a little bit sometimes and realize that whether it's just impacting people, you have to be honest with yourself. And I think I spoke about this previously. Whether it's something that works, doesn't work, whether you fail or succeed, all you have is you at the end of the day. And a lot of people, they give off positive energy or, negative energy. But at the end of the day, it all stems from who you are inside and the way you choose to wake up every day. It's not always easy to be positive. But what I've noticed more so than ever is I have been able to work with younger kids who are always happy to see me, happy to see their parents, excited to be on the ice. And, when I stopped playing, I was a little bit miserable with the game. I was a little bit miserable with myself. And I just missed that feeling of going out there and just being excited to skate again or being on the ice and shoot pucks. And when I started working with Kobe and just seeing how excited he was to be on the ice and how much of a sponge he was, it kind of brought that light back to me. And it started making me understand that I got to start changing the way I'm living, whether it's my past traumas, my current traumas. I got to let that stuff go and just focus on the now and the present. And I think for me, it's been a big healing process and something that I've done a lot of soul searching and I'm still doing it, but I think I'm on the right trajectory. And, I'm hoping that I can have the same impact on, people and kids that are around me every day.
That's so beautiful because I don't know if anyone's heard your podcast that you had with my husband on Can't Shovel Hurricanes, because if you haven't, I listened to that podcast a few times because it really touched my heart how raw and genuine you were to share your story that way. And I think people have a fear that they're going to work towards this goal and they're going to run into a brick wall and not reach their goal. And at some point, I think you had to face living that you ran into a brick wall at some point.
Yeah.
And I think a beautiful thing that comes out of running into a brick wall is that it just means you weren't going in the right direction.
Yeah.
There was another direction for you to take for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't believe in mistakes. I don't believe in bad luck, personally. I believe everything works out divinely as it should, as painful, as ugly, or as incredible as that is. For whatever reason, there was a path for you to take. And then there was a reroute, one you weren't expecting to take, and one you probably really didn't want to take. And Nikita, what you did with your reroute was you literally inspire and touch not just the potential of every individual that ends up on the ice with you, but you touch their heart and their soul. And not because they have somebody in front of them who's a quote unquote failure, and I'm using that as a quote because I don't see that as who you are. And that might be a story you've told yourself. I don't know.
I mean, I think you always look at yourself in the mirror from the success or the failures that you've acquired. And for the longest time, I did look at myself as a failure, and I wasn't proud of myself. I wasn't happy with myself, and thought about a lot of things that I did wrong, what I could have done better. But I've always preached what you just said of everything happens for a reason. And I was fortunate enough to always look at every negative, part of my life or negative impact of my life and try to make it better. Going back to when I played, I spoke about this on the previous podcast. I played a lot when I was younger, and then as I got to the 11 to 15 stage of my years, I started to really love the game. I started to appreciate it. I started to enjoy it. But behind the scenes, there was a lot of anger that I was carrying. And then as I went on to junior and then overseas, I just couldn't let go of that anger because it seemed to have built up. So when I was done with hockey and I realized that I can't play anymore, I really had a sit down moment with myself and realize what had happened. And I think the biggest part of me that felt relief was releasing that anger and not having it anymore, and just being a regular human, being out in the world and not having to carry this mindset of, oh, I'm in the stands, meaning why is a healthy scratch, or oh, I'm a fourth line guy, because you always look at yourself as a label because you are labeled. And when I came out of it and I met you and Ronan, you guys shifted a different perspective of what I had gone through and what I could do with it. And since then, it's really made me appreciate the journey that I went through, even though it may have not worked out. I've definitely figured out what I'm here for, and all I want to do is help. I've always been that way, and whatever it leads to, I don't know. But the one thing I always wanted for myself as a person is to leave some sort of, I wouldn't say legacy, but impact, whether it was good or bad. I just wanted to make sure that I was always the positive teammate person that people could look up to. And, I've tried to live that way now, and I'm kind of growing into a little bit better. I still have some room for improvement, but definitely meeting you guys helped a lot. So,
well, I had no idea, and I'm so grateful to be a part of your journey, because it really is incredible to watch the few times I've had the pleasure to sit and watch you coach, watch the way. I remember watching Kobe go on the ice, and we were trying to build up his confidence because he's a smaller guy right now, you know? And he's so smart.
Brilliant.
And we tell him that his brain is both his gift and his curse, because he'll overthink and then he gets scared. And we were like, Nikita, let him, like, teach him how to take a blow, teach him that he can take it. And I watched you and I thought, Nikita is too nice to do that. Nikita is too loving to do that. And I see you like shove him down. I'm like, oh my God. you know, because there's a safety with you that you're that you're someone that we all trust. You're not going to bury him in the ice. You're not going to, beat the crap out of him and be like, now you see, you can take it. You're right.
Yeah.
Like you have a way of navigating this fine line of motivation and pushing somebody and putting your foot down when you need to. And you can do it on a huge sheet of ice with lots of kids and figure out where you need to be, how you need to be, and how you navigate. Like I was a dance teacher in a small room, okay? I had lots of energy. I had loud music to back me up. I had a deep passion for dancing. Yeah, like I had that. But to watch you navigate the ice with, I mean, let's be real, a bunch of boys, which is different than a dance class, which has like girls who will be chatty, but like boys who like now have a weapon in their hand. A hockey stick, which could be used as a weapon. Yeah. Teaching them, motivating them, but not just like the improvement you see in your students is, and I can't emphasize this enough, does not stem from just your hockey IQ and your knowledge of what they need and how they need it and when they need it. It's your ability to own the ice, but not be like commander in chief, but like also get down on your knee and help them, like, Kobe, I'll tie your skates. Don't worry, buddy. I got it. Like equally a soft place to land. And I feel like that's such a duality within you that you have, that you can turn on and turn off, that you know when to, use your voice and use your power, but also know when to like get down and be like, hey, it's okay. Or I see you carry kids off the ice when they need it. And like, you're like a loving dad, but also like the firm one at the same time. And, when I train teachers, because I do a lot of professional development, I always say kids need loving and firm boundaries.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I think going back to when I was younger, I lived with my mom and my sister for a long time because my father was playing. And then when he came out of playing and coaching, he started working with me individually. And it was just sternness, and it was not brutal, but it was just tough because I didn't feel like I had the love. I just felt like I had more of the coach all
Soviet
the time.
style.
Yeah, the Russian Soviet style way. But at the same time, as I got older and progressed, my father found that fine line of when to give me the love that I needed and support that I needed, but also the motivation that I needed. He did a great job, I would say, mentally working with me off the ice and having that boundary of understanding, okay, when it's time to work, it's time to work. Mm-hmm. But then when it's time to converse and talk about what's not working, what is working, we'll have that time. So he was always really good about managing the relationship we had. And I would say it really helped me growing up. And then I was fortunate enough to have a good coach out in Finland by the name of Olli Jokinen. And he did a great job with it as well. Like he knew when it was time for business, and he said it how it was. He didn't sugarcoat it. You might not like what you hear, but then at the same time, he would talk to you on a personal level and explain to you, hey, like, this is what you need to do. And if you do it, you'll be playing, or you'll be better shape, whatever it may be. And I think as you just go through those, trials and tribulations or whatnot, you kind of learn to pick up on what works. That's what works for me. I needed someone to sit me down, say how it is. I hated when people went around the bushes. But at the same time, showing that compassion of trying to understand where the person's coming from is a whole different perspective, because a lot of people will just say, you got to do this, go do it.
Yep.
Instead of just understanding where the person's coming from. I don't know what mood you're in today, so I can't expect to push you to a certain level, or you can't expect to push me to a certain level if I don't understand where you're coming from. And I think going back to the whole soul searching, a lot of people, they deal with different battles. And I don't know if I've been able to develop that through the last couple of years that I've been working, but I've always been a pretty personable person, I would say, where I understand the feeling and the energy between, you know, whether it's a student, whether it's a person I'm talking to, and kind of try to relate. Because I think a lot of times people speak over someone instead of trying to understand and then speak. And I see that a lot, and I'm sure you deal with it a lot in the business that you're in, is you can never really understand until you've heard from where the person's coming from. And that's something that's really helped me, you know, connect with Kobe, for example. Started working with him when he was about 5, I would say, right? And I didn't know what to expect, but the brain on that kid, and I tell Ronan this all the time, when I'm working with him, I'm not working with a 5 or 6 or now 8-year-old, right? I'm working with a kid who's probably 12 to 15 in his brain. And the conversations are a little bit higher of a level IQ, but at the same time, the love and the understanding of I am dealing with the child here doesn't go away. Like the little pushing and shoving you said, it's only going to make him better, but I know that there are certain boundaries not to cross. And
you don't want to like check him right into the board and see how he takes it.
He's too sweet. I don't want to. But no, a kid like that, it's so amazing to see how he responds, because he's not shying away from it. He's understanding, and he is understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. And it's really hard and rare to find that. And I'm not even just talking kids, but I'm talking people in general nowadays, where you try to help or you try to relate, but then the message isn't being delivered. And I think that goes back to you as an individual. You said you have a lot of growing that you're taking on right now, and a lot of self improvement that you're working on, but you're willing to take that in. And I think that's the biggest thing that helped me too, is I had to be willing to let go, not have control, and look at myself and realize this is what I'm missing and this is what I need, and take that help in. So there's a lot of different perspectives I would take it from. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of good people in my corner, and I think that's where I get it from, thankfully enough.
Amazing. There are a few things that you said that I want to go back to. One thing you said was, and this was like way earlier, you spoke about your identity and how you struggled with this piece of your identity. And I recently just had a dear friend of mine on my podcast, Revanava, and she spoke about how, like, who are you if you couldn't name your profession, your religion, your, like, if you couldn't name those tangible things about you, who are you? And I feel like part of your soul searching had to be like, wait, I'm not this line, I'm not this, I'm not that, who is Nikita, right? And I feel like life will give you opportunities to learn lessons, and they'll do it in soft ways. And we often ignore, we don't realize, and then we get like smacked in the face with something, and then we're like, okay, I heard, I understand, and now I need to look at this part of myself.
Yeah.
I feel like, interestingly enough, where I am in my growth is self-acceptance. And I feel like that's where you had to be in like a really difficult, seemingly impossible situation where you're working your entire life towards a goal that is totally defining who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah.
And then it's like the whole floor gets taken out from underneath you, and you have to figure out Where's the ground now? And who am I in this new space? And I don't know where your life is going to take you. And I think, hands off the wheel and I'm relinquishing control and allowing and being open is a whole spiritual practice that you alluded to a little bit as well, like not having as much control. And just knowing what power you stepped into.
Yeah.
Because the power to help, to guide, to coach, to direct people in whatever path, whether it be hockey or not, I think your capacity to spread light far exceeds the rink. It just starts there. Because I know when I listened to you on Ronan's podcast, I cried and I was like, wow. It's like, I don't know if you know, when people look into your eyes, they feel something,
Yeah.
And I don't know if people have shared that with you, that it's something you can feel like deep in your heart. You have so much in there. And when I listened to you, I was like, oh. Like you alluded to, nobody knows your story, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what the person was dealing with. And I share this also in my training. Like I think about where someone is when I meet them. How are they feeling in this moment? We can feel energy.
Yeah.
Which you also spoke about. You pick up on that. You can feel where someone is and where you're going to be with them in this moment. Like somebody walks on the ice and they're like, yeah. You're like, okay, I feel you. And somebody walks on the ice and they're like, hey. Like, oh, I felt that.
Yeah. No.
And sometimes you can read it on like the head is down or whatever. Like you can read the body language. But sometimes we wear masks. You probably do all the time because you have to be on the ice no matter what happened, no matter if you got a phone call or if whatever, you need to perform when you're working, when you have to be on when you're on, and you are. And you're genuinely on, like you have a way to compartmentalize. I'm sure you deal with a lot of shit after. But to feel that and to be mindful of it, I think, and use that is part of what I train my therapist to do. I speak about mindfulness as this like, people think it's this like woo-woo thing, right? Oh, it means you breathe deeply and you're like a Buddhist monk, but really to be mindful is to just be really present
100%.
where you are.
Flow
And with
state.
whom. Yeah.
Flow state.
Yes.
That's what I call it.
It is flow state.
It is.
And especially in performative arts and sports, to figure out where that is. And it's something I actually work on with Kobe because the way that his brain works, which is a gift, also gets in his way and he gets right out of flow because he starts thinking about like, oh, and his brain can go down a different rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
So we work with him on how do you stay
Present.
here
Yeah.
and do your job here and like watch the game when you're on the bench, watch the game, but like get into it and allow your intuition to guide you and allow your body to move in the way that it needs to. Because when you're tense, when you're anxious, when you're overthinking, you tense your body up and then you don't have that flow within your body, let alone in your mind, right?
Yeah.
But you found a way to describe something that I spent years trying to figure out, like what is different about what I do? And people would say like, you hold space for people. You hold space for people. I'm like, okay. So I walk around with a container and I hold space for people where they can sit and be with me or they can dump their stuff and I'll hold on to it for them. You found a way to put all these pieces together in this beautifully packaged Nikita coaching box that you can meet somebody or meet many people, feel them, read them, take what you need to take, give what they need to give, and elevate because when people are in your presence, they elevate. And I don't know if you have like a knowing of how you do that because it's really powerful. It really is. Like, this is why you're here today.
Thank thank you.
You're here today because if I could, I told you I would have you hold Kobe's hand until, or anyone who has a dream, an aspiration to grow. I listened to your social media, which if you don't follow, Nikita, you need to, where you talk about what it means to work hard. And you talk a lot about this headspace and about pushing yourself. And it inspires me and it reminds me for me. So I know that like I said, your focus is hockey and on the ice, but your reach far exceeds and can generalize to any human or soul who wants to grow and achieve, because what you have overcome, many people would bury themselves. I hope you can realize that many people would say, oh, so that's it for me.
You're going to make me cry. I think I remember talking to my sister about this. And she asked, she's like, she didn't mean it in a bad way, but she's like, why don't you just stop playing? And I remember the text I sent her. It was just, I want to be the kid that helps someone one day. And I didn't know what aspect it was. I wasn't trying to sound corny or cheesy. It's just, I think living in the now is so important. Being present and not overthinking is so important. And whether or not I made the NHL or made just pro or whatnot, I just want to be able to one day have the story of, okay, I was able to deal with things that I dealt with and still be able to accomplish what I accomplished and help kids or players or people to do the same. And the way I look at it is we're constantly thinking of every scenario, every perspective, every situation that could go right or wrong. That's normal. But I think the biggest thing for me, the realization is I have no control. And it goes back to what you were saying. You have to let go of the wheel. You just need to worry about what you can control. And my father always, let me know at a young age that you only have yourself. You only have what you can control. And for me, as I got older, I started to see it more. And I just wanted to understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I was pretty young when I started to deal with the overthinking, dealing with the, issues that I was dealing with. And I just felt like it wasn't fair. But then I started to kind of look back at myself and say, okay, what is this teaching me? What is this gonna guide me through in order to be able to overcome and push through and maybe inspire someone else? I read a story about a player. His name was Ty Parsons. He was a goaltender for the Calgary Flames. Had a hell of a World Junior tournament with Team USA. They ended up winning gold. And I remember just seeing him. For whatever reason, I just gravitated towards him, just the way he played. And sure enough, found his story. And he had dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety and just the pressure of being drafted and signed in the NHL. And there was a story about how he was going to the airport for training camp. And his mom was dropping him off, and he was shaking in the car. And the mom was asking, why? What's wrong? And he's just like, I don't think I can handle it. I don't think I can do this. And then the story goes, he asked himself, I started thinking of what is this teaching me instead of why is this happening to me? And I think that's where it all changed for me. And going back to, what you're saying is you can't you carry all this weight of listening to people, and it's something that's really hard to kind of handle. But I think from seeing what you do, you love it,
Mm.
and it's almost natural to you to be able to help and understand that when it's time to go home, I leave that to the side. But then when you're on because you're living in the now. And it goes back to what my point was, is living in the now is something I preach and I try to live by, because I realize I have no control of what's in the past and I have no control what's in the future. I have right now, this moment, and that's all I will ever have. And make the most out of it. Be present. Be present with the people that you're with. Be present, whether it's the moment you share on the ice. Appreciate the good, appreciate the bad. And I think that's where I start to shift my thinking a little bit more, instead of just living in the miserable state of mind where you're just questioning everything. You just gotta appreciate, live, learn, move on.
There's a really healing practice of gratitude, because if you think about gratitude, and when I do a mindful moment, when I do my trainings, I always start with mindfulness and have everyone just, focus on their breath. And I often gravitate to saying, let's give gratitude to your beating heart. It just beats for you all day.
Yeah.
Every day, even while you sleep. You don't have to ask it to do anything. It just does. And if you can find, because you can find gratitude for the most minute of things, like even, gratitude for a breeze. Like I'll be out for a walk and I'll be like, we live in Florida. When we were in Toronto, I was less grateful for the breeze. But, here, I'm like, wow, like just to feel the breeze. Like, thank you for that breeze,
Yeah.
To find gratitude in all those little moments. You can find gratitude for huge things. One of the things that I'm working on right now to let go of some old anger is finding gratitude for the process. And I had a session with my healer recently, and I was holding on to something, and she said, you can forgive. I think you need to work on forgiving.
Yeah.
And I said, I think I need to work on forgiving, but actually finding gratitude for the process. Like we had this whole conversation about how all of, this sequence of events that have occurred led me to where I am right now.
Absolutely.
And who I am right now. Thank you. Thank you for the challenges that I had to face. Thank you for the challenges my mom and my family and their family had to face to get us to where I am, because if my parents didn't have to leave because they were Jews who were leaving and had the opportunity to leave because they weren't allowed to be who they were or where they were, and had nothing, literally started with zero, no language, no culture, nothing, and built a life that I could be grateful for. And I remember looking at my grandfather one day and just saying, thank you for what you had to go through so that I could live this life.
Yeah.
And truly, it's like all of it leads us to where we are. And if where we are isn't where we want to be, it's just part of the process to where we're headed. And to shift it to the mindset of gratitude in some way. Like all that anger that I was feeling about what was happening or what had happened, when I looked at it just from a different lens, I was like, I didn't feel that heaviness.
Yeah.
I was able to be like, oh yeah, okay, thank you.
Can I ask, do you think gratitude is preached because when you shift your mindset on thinking positive things starts happening?
Yeah.
Or do you think that the way you navigate your life creates a positive outcome?
I think what we think we create. I think it's the energy we put out, we attract. And so, I say to my kids when they say like, I can't, I go, okay, you're right. Not because I think you can't, but because you think you can't. You've already put up that wall. And if you believe that wall exists, you're going to keep hitting the wall. But if I change my mindset, that wall no longer exists, and now there's an entire road ahead of me that I didn't even see before because I couldn't. I think our energy works in the same way. That if I'm going to focus on all the negative in my life, I will keep not just attracting it, but it's all I will attend to. Tony Robbins does an experiment where he'll ask someone to look around the room and find everything that is a particular color, let's say red. So you do the experiment, look around the room, he'll give you a certain amount of time, then he asks you to close your eyes and name all those things that you saw that were red. Now he'll say, what did you see that was green? You could name 20 red things. He'll name 3 green things, even if there are more green things in this room.
Yeah.
Because that is what your brain was looking for. And if my focus is on, woe is me, why is everything happening to me, everything is bad, even if good things happen, I won't even see them. I won't even let them into my field.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends laughs. I'm the kind of person that when I see a butterfly, I'm like, oh, like the world stops. I'm like, butterfly. You probably have heard on this podcast because, when they fly by, I'm like, oh, butterfly. Like I look for them because to me, they're symbolic.
Yeah.
But it's also like I look for light. I look for light in people. I look for light in scenarios. It doesn't mean I don't also live in La La Land, although, I've been told many times about my husband, I'm very naive. I think life has taught me to be a little bit less so. But that's the way I choose to see. And so it's more of what I think I attract. Doesn't mean bad things don't happen to me. It doesn't mean, I don't meet people who don't have the best intentions for me or won't hurt me or will hurt me. I still experience it all.
Yeah.
And I experience what I meant to experience. That's my belief. But I do believe that if your thought pattern is a negative one, that's the energy you carry and that's what you call in. And everything else will still exist, just won't penetrate into your field, even if it's literally walking right by you, because you're not even looking for it.
Well, it's just funny you say that because the reason why I asked you the question, a lot of successful people, they get asked, how'd you become successful? Whether it's money, status, whatever it may be, whatever defines success. And the first thing they always say is gratitude. And to me, it's something that I'm working on, being grateful for the little things, the small wins, we call them,
Mm-hmm.
that lead up to bigger wins. It's like a momentum shift. And, I spoke to Ronan about this last time on the last podcast. And I believe in manifestation to some extent.
Yep.
I believe that if you have a goal, you focus on it, you achieve it. That is manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about how everyone lives their day to day and plans their career, that is manifestation. And it is funny how some things work sometimes better than you expected, sometimes not so great. But at the end of the day, when that door is either open or closed, you will understand where to shift through the times and the things that maybe didn't go your way. So going back to your point of you don't live in La La Land, I agree. You can't. You have to learn from the bad. You have to take those experiences and navigate through. And for me, it's something I've realized is, when I stopped playing, the door closed and it wasn't there. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. I came to terms with that. But it's, all right, what do I do next? how do I move forward? And it was definitely not part of the manifestation journal, I'll tell you that much. But
I bet.
you know, the people you get to meet, I think for me, it's been a game changer, especially being down here. You know, Ronan, the first time I met him, he was very blunt. He was very stern.
Yep, that's how he is.
But from the moment that I met him, I knew I could trust him because of the way he was. He was honest. He said it how it was. So I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe that you meet, whether it's a good person or a bad person, by chance. I believe everyone crosses paths for whatever reason because I believe there's a lesson to be learned. You know, I have a sister who's very you know, spiritual, and she kind of started helping me understand what it meant to feel the energy from people and feel the vibe. And definitely grateful every day that I got to cross paths with you guys.
So are we.
Yeah, because I think my life definitely took a turn for the best. You know, what I do with it, I don't know, but right now, I just need to keep figuring out and being honest with myself. That's all I can really do. So
Keep walking. Just keep going.
yeah,
See where life takes you.
yeah. So how do you deal with the whole aspect of carrying all that weight and maybe running into people that are not necessarily negative, but are going through a tough time? How do you work with a child that is maybe dealing with something a little bit heavier than others?
So I used to have a really bad way of dealing with it. I, from a young age, used to pray to take on other people's pain and tell God, I can take it. I'm strong. Give it to me. My mom got into a car accident. She had a lot of pain. I would put my hands on her back and ask to give it to me. I can take it. Don't let her suffer. I can take it. Not realizing that actually doesn't help anybody for me to take it from them. Everyone's walking through, as we spoke about, what they're walking through for a reason. And if I now hold it, they're going to keep facing it until they work through it.
Right.
So I used to try to take it on myself. And I think I learned at some point along the journey, especially as a parent, I learned this, that if I empower people with the tools to do it themselves, that's the beauty and the gift. And I think that's what my science taught me. It's probably why I love it so much, is that I got to teach tools for somebody to use on their own. And I got to watch them use it and then say like, oh my, I did it. And to me, like, celebration comes when I watch a kid do something on their own and I got to just watch. Like, I have countless times been at work and cried for the most beautiful reasons, also for not.
Yeah.
I have a save the world mentality. A psychologist who trained me once told me, you have a save the world mentality and you can't save the world. And at first I said, no, I don't. And then when she said, no, you can't, I was like, yes, I can. I was like, oh, I do. I definitely do, because as soon as you said, no, I can't, I was like upset. Like, yes, I can. And I learned that the only way to save the world is to love on people, to, like you say, understand them, have compassion for them, but then also guide them into their path to live out their fullest potential. So it went from like, let me have it so that you don't have to have it, to me being able to hold the space, feel it with you, because I can feel it. As an empath, I feel people very deeply. To understand that, and then to know this is what I can give you instead of taking it on into, like, I used to like hold it. I could feel it in my body. So I think empowering people, giving them hope, and reminding them of their gifts and their light. Like, I get to work with the most brilliant. Their brilliance far exceeds my brilliance, most brilliant people on the planet. And a lot of the work that is done in my field is about making their behavior less like them. And a lot of the work that I try to do is, no, I want you to be you. We need you. And I want you to live to your fullest potential. Here's a tool, and you'll teach me and I'll teach you. And we have this like give and take relationship. We call that compassionate support. So I feel like you have a compassionate way of coaching, but you're also like a no BS coach at the same time. And I think there's, a time and place for both. Like you said, there's a time to listen and there's a time for work. Yeah. When it's time for work, we work. Yeah. And then there's a time for me to hold space for you and listen and be here or feel or know how far I'm going to push you today. Because today I'm going to push you. I can see I can. Or today, maybe we'll do 2 instead of 5 laps. I guess I don't need anyone puking or breaking down or whatever. Exactly. You meet them where they are. Yeah. Which is beautiful.
But I think the way you look at it is the way I look at it. You don't try to take away what they have.
No.
Which I see a lot of nowadays, and I don't have anything wrong with I don't have any issues with the schooling system. But I see a lot of kids come out with no personality, with no light, no creativity.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing, helping the kids understand it's okay to be different, is a special way of looking at it, because those are the kids that are going to go and do something amazing.
Yeah. It's the ones who are different.
Yeah.
Or, not,
unquote.
Yeah. They just have a gift that they need to share, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just by embracing it. The way I look at it is the C students in the real world are the ones that usually become the most successful, because they think things through differently and they look at life differently, and they're able to create out of nothing. And hockey is such a creative sport, something that you could really express yourself with. You usually see it with the kids that have and the kids that don't. When I watch Kobe, he's pulling things off or trying things off that he's just seen on TV. And that's very much like how I learned. I never really had to be broken down step by step of what to do. I just kind of watched it and tried it. And I think that's the way I express myself. That's the way I see Kobe express himself. Mm-hmm. I know your girls skated too. I'm sure that's how they express themselves.
I wish they still did.
I know. They got to get back out there.
There really is. And I think I said this to you, what Chloe said to me, that when she's on the ice, she feels free. And I remember you said to me, yeah, like there was you could feel that. And I was like, it's different than a sport where you run or, like your feet stop moving and you stop moving. But on the ice, you push, and then you glide and you feel the air and you go so much faster and there's so much more just a different way of moving that I feel like is so freeing.
It is. I think Kobe used to call it the mask, and it was how the person he was on the court was a lot different than how he was off the court. Mm-hmm. Alter ego, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And, I think I've developed it where when I get on the ice, I just know I'm in control. That's why I love it so much. I think I miss that feeling of going out there and being in control. And something where I try to reiterate to the kids that I can't believe in you if you don't believe in yourself.
Yep.
And I'm sure you see it in a lot of what you do. I'm sure the kids, they feel different, so they don't want to believe in their instincts. But that's what separates the kids that are special and the kids that are ordinary. I always tell my kids, some of them will not necessarily argue, but they'll question, well, why are we doing this? And I ask them, well, do you want to be like everyone else? And they say, yeah. I'm like, really? So if a scout is sitting in the stands and they see 20 players on the ice and you're one of the 20 and you're just like everyone else, do you think that scout's going to pick you? They think to themselves and they're like, probably not. I go, exactly. So what do you have to do? Be different. And I think that's kind of where the psychological aspect of, it's not about hockey. It's about the rest of the lessons you learn in life.
Yeah.
Whether you come off and do something special with your life on the ice or off the ice, you have to separate yourself from the pack. And I think embracing who they are and letting their creativity flow. Every kid has their own talents. And that's what makes the world special, I think. It's seeing how many different qualities everyone has.
I love that because I totally agree. I actually find so much joy in discovering the different gifts and talents and passions that different people have, because it actually is what makes this world a better place. And I talk about this all the time, like the most brilliant people who have impacted this world in the most meaningful way were not cookie cutter kids. They were not, they weren't the kids who, listened in class necessarily or even could attend school.
Right.
Because they were so different. Before we go, because I think I could sit here for a few more hours. I have so much more to ask you. But the way I like to end my show is I ask the person I'm speaking to, so you, if you have a question or a statement that you would like the listeners to sit with themselves, something for them to think about for themselves.
I would say biggest thing for me is it's okay not to know. It's more than okay. But what's not okay is not to try to figure it out. I think there's a big difference between being confused but not searching, whether it's internally, whether it's externally, whatever it may be. But the continuous steps to improve as a person. It's okay to not be where you want to be, but also have the goal of, I'm going to get there. I think that's something I'm trying to help myself understand better is now I'm at the point where I'm okay with what happened, but I'm not okay where I am. And that's fine, but I'm going to get there. So it's that push and belief.
Yeah.
That's something that's really helped me. Seems the way you live your life and the way you preach. So that's probably one thing I would advise people is because it's really helped me. That's the way I want to live, is never stop. Always be okay with where I am, live in the now, but never stop.
Keep pushing for more.
Keep pushing for more.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nikita.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so happy you said yes.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you.
Awesome.